Greetings, everyone. Welcome to COS Today. Dale Parrish, your host, along with Ken Kashuba, co-host. How you doing, Ken?
I'm doing just fine, and I wanted to let you know the Facebook feed is up and running, so we don't have to
Yeah,
worry
I
about
see. We made it this time.
it.
Excellent,
Yeah,
excellent.
yeah, yeah,
For those of viewers, if you don't understand what we're talking about, past few broadcasts, we as soon as went live, we get this message that Facebook was not connecting with us, or we weren't connecting with Facebook. So Ken had to get us connected. But hopefully that has been straightened out. So
good to go.
we're going live tonight. Okay, all
Good
right.
to go.
Well, again, welcome everyone to our broadcast this evening. And Ken, but we might as well let's just let Maringo Mike say his thing here to remind everybody, and we'll get him out of the way. Okay.
Program, please be sure and hit the like and subscribe buttons along with the notifications bell so you'll always know when we go live. We appreciate your support and hope you'll join us on our mission to use the Constitution to save the Constitution. Now, back to the program.
There we go.
Righty.
Maringo Mike. Before we get started in our first segment, I just want to once again make everyone aware that our broadcast coming up on July 6th is going to be a pre-recorded special. And Ken and I are working on that this week to get that all recorded ahead of time. We thought that we would, since that's the July 4th weekend and a lot of celebrations going on, that probably everybody was going to be out having a good time and celebrating America's 250th birthday. So we decided that we would pre-record a special. And I think it's going to be very good, Ken. We've got a lot of people that a lot of our standard contributors have stepped forward to give us a little piece on what's special about America to them. And I think it's going to be a good program. So that's what's coming up then on July 6th. And then we will be back live on July 13th, which will be our COS Perspective segment. So we're going to be talking about child trafficking on our COS Perspective segment. So that ought to be very good. Well, let's get right into, Ken, our first segment, which is the In Focus segment. And in this segment, we bring on three guests to join Ken and I, and we each talk about a bit about what's caught our interest in the news here recently in our world. In other words, what is our focus? What has been our focus? Not much going on at all, right, Ken? I mean, I'm not much to think about.
Yeah. I mean, if it gets any worse, we're not going to have anything to talk about. We'll have to start bringing, maybe producing a musical or something. I don't know.
Oh, geez. That's let's hope it doesn't get to that point. All right. Well, let me start bringing on our guest here. First one is a young man, Tim Heidenreich, from here in Indiana, is our COS prayer coordinator. How you doing, Tim?
Great. Good to see you guys tonight. Good to be with you.
Thank you, Tim. And the next young man is Mr. Hunter Oswald. Hunter reigns from Ohio. He's a law student right now, and has written a number of pieces. He's written for our newsletter here in Indiana. What other publications have you written pieces for?
So I have written for AMAC Newsline. So that is the Association of Mature American Citizens. And of course, where I hail from is the American Spectator.
American Spectator. Oh, is that right? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there an American Immature people or is it just mature?
So far, mature.
Just mature. Okay.
Yeah, the immature, we're still working on that department.
Okay. All right. And our third guest this evening is Mr. Frank Vaughn, who is the Convention of States State Director for Colorado. Certainly very peaceful out there. Nothing much going on at all.
It's always calm in Colorado.
Always calm. Obviously, we're being a bit facetious here, but anyway, welcome to all of you. Again, like I said, in this segment, it's let's talk about what's caught your interest. In other words, what's your focus? Maybe one or two things. So, Hunter, you're the young man amongst us here. Let's let you lead off this evening. So, what's got your interest?
Well, I stand with great wisdom with me, but well, I greatly appreciate starting. So right now, what's caught my interest is today's Supreme Court decisions, which there were three major decisions, two which kind of combined together and then one on its own. So the first one was Watson versus the Republican National Committee, which was on mail-in ballots, which was a very close decision. It was a 5-4 decision that focused on basically the nature of when can mail-in ballots be counted or not counted. And surprisingly, it was the liberal decision, or the judicial activists did win here. So you had John Roberts and Amy Coney Barrett siding with Sotomayor, Kagan, and Jackson, to which, and I will use their own words, as Amy Coney Barrett wrote in the majority decision, that the Election Day statutes require the electorate's choice to be made on Election Day. That occurs so long as Election Day is the deadline for individuals to vote, as it is in Mississippi. But the Election Day statutes do not set a deadline for ballot receipt, so they do not prevent Mississippi from counting ballots postmarked before Election Day, yet received afterward. So essentially what the decision was is that mail-in ballots can be counted post-election within 5 days. So
But they have to be postmarked on or before Election Day.
On and before Election Day. So that's the 5-day mark. So obviously there's been a lot of debate since then, because the way this decision was treated was kind of seeing the two aspects, which is someone casting a ballot versus, say, someone sending their ballot in. So when you hear like Election Day, obviously when you're voting that day at your precinct or wherever you're voting at in person, where now the mail-in ballots are going to be treated kind of very uniquely different, of course. But of course, this is a never-ending cycle of election integrity debates. Right. But so that's the first decision. Now, there's two other decisions which actually involve the presidency. So the first one was actually about whether or not Trump could fire a Federal Reserve governor, or one of the board members from the Federal Reserve, to which in a 5-4 decision, they held that he couldn't fire that individual. So this was Lisa Cook, who's one of the Federal Reserve board members. And according to them, so the majority was, again, 5-4. So you had Roberts joining with Brett Kavanaugh with the other, say, 3 liberal judges, stating that if the president would be able to fire a Federal Reserve board member, it would, and I quote, would in effect transform the Federal Reserve's for-cause protection into a at-will employment, an interpretive leap out of step with the statute Congress enacted and our nation's tradition of central banking protected from political interference. In other words, by having the president be able to fire a board member, it would somehow destroy the independence of the Federal Reserve Board, which that's been debated for a long time. And then, of course, the other decision that coincided with this was a 6-3 decision that said the president could fire, for example, in this case, it was the FTC commissioner that Trump did not want anymore. And so from there on, and that was Humphrey Executor versus United States. And the basic idea of this was using what they call the unitary executive theory, which is that the president essentially can and has complete control over the executive branch. So him appointing whoever he wants and firing whoever he wants kind of plays into this whole argumentation that which they said in the end the president or President Trump can fire the FTC commissioner.
Since
So-
this is part of the executive branch, which he's in charge of, right?
Correct. So this was kind of the ongoing debate of, because they're considered independent agencies, whether or not the president can at will fire or hire whoever he wants. And again, in a lot of these positions, what's going on is the president, like anything with a SCOTUS nominee to his cabinet positions, so he appoints or nominates, and then the Senate votes to confirm, and then that person serves for how long the term of that office is, of course. So it's kind of a very unique and interesting situation because essentially the Supreme Court allows now the presidency to fire, in most cases, whoever he wants and appoint whoever he wants. But at the same time, in the case of the Federal Reserve, they said no. So obviously this creates a little tension of, well, you're expanding the federal authority of the president at the same time, but also withdrawing his ability to just fire anybody at will. And that's where, again, kind of you have in one day you have mail-in ballots, basically nothing changes there. And then all of a sudden the SCOTUS is like, well, now the president has a little more authority than the previous years. So it's a little fun situation when you look at how this now affects regulatory agencies. That could be the EPA, any branch of government within that executive branch.
Now, Hunter, I've heard it said that this decision with regard to the mail-in ballots this makes the SAVE Act even more important. What do you know? What does the SAVE Act? Does the SAVE Act deal with mail-in ballots that's contrary to what the Supreme Court decided today?
So in some ways it does, because what they're trying to say is the way in which what the federal government regulates in terms of elections. So that was actually somewhat addressed in the decision, which Barrett, when she wrote it, said that essentially you have to deal with, what does the federal government regulate, which is to say that they deal with, okay, it's kind of weird because the act that was used in the case what the RNC was debating on from a federal authority perspective is, okay, casting the ballot versus counting the ballot is essentially to kind of simplify it. They kind of use different language in how they represent this case, but very, very much at the federal level, it's okay, the receipt. So somebody sending it in versus, okay, you have to count the ballot, which they argue is more of a state authority. So, and in fact, that's like one of the very first things in the decision. So to kind of quickly tell you all, so they're saying that the Fifth Circuit Court held that Mississippi is preempted because the federal election day statutes require ballots to be received by election day. And that's where the Supreme Court upheld what the Fifth Circuit Court made. So, and that's kind of where it comes down to when it comes to the SAVE Act. Now this is where the regulations. So in other words, if a new election day statute comes into play, obviously this would probably, I wouldn't say fully upend, but essentially change it to where, okay, what's being regulated. So, and that's where in the decision they talked about that, for example, the court does not consider the scope of Congress's authority to regulate federal elections. So in all, when it comes to SAVE Act, this, I would argue, makes the SAVE Act, as you kind of hinted, way more important now when taken to full consideration that what is considered to be regulated by Congress versus the states. And that's where obviously this decision kind of makes little things contentious with the SAVE Act. And so some people would say this makes the SAVE Act dead, and others would say, well, no, Congress has to change the law to figure out what needs to be regulated in this instance.
Okay. All right. Well, evidently this issue is going to continue on.
So obviously not the win that people wanted for the SAVE Act, but it does now make it a much bigger issue when heading into, say, elections and whether or not certain ballots should be or shouldn't be counted.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Well, that this will be something we'll be talking about, I think, again sometime in the future. Frank, what's on your mind?
Oh my goodness. So, staying with the theme of elections, why do Democrat socialism why is it resurging? You know, we just had an election in New York where they elected some socialists that will eventually perhaps be in Congress. And out here in Colorado, we've experienced that. We have DSA members, Democratic Socialist of America, card-carrying members in our legislature as we speak. So why the resurgent? Because back history, the DSA was founded in 1982, and so there was a spurt there where they were very effective. This actually goes back into the 1900s when the original socialism concepts took hold, and the 1901 through like 1920. But what now is sparking this? You know, these young adults that believe in this in socialism. You know why? You know, the civics literacy has declined, in my opinion. You know, they're not taught federalism. They're not taught the Constitution. These young folks, you know, they went through the 2008 crash. They went through COVID. Housing costs are high. Student debt is high. And so I personally think that they're selecting security over liberty. And I was kind of wondering what your all's thoughts were on
that. It's a very interesting question. Actually, I was not aware that the DSA has been around that long. You said 1982.
It was founded in 1982. Yeah. So we've had socialism in this country, you know, weaseling around for quite a long time, but now all of a sudden it's resurging and it's becoming effective. So how do we push back on that?
Yeah.
You know, and the why.
One of the things you mentioned, Frank, is obviously you ties right into education. And I had a discussion the other day with somebody. We got talking about, hey, you know, what did you have to read when you were in school? Well, Animal Farm in 1984 was on the hit list when I was in school. I don't think it's even it's collecting dust somewhere. First of all, I don't even think they're reading anything in school anymore. So part of the germination of the thought patterns of many of these young socialists it comes from their schooling and the indoctrination they've been receiving for quite some time. I mean, that's a part of it. It doesn't answer why people think that way or continue. And I think I might talk a little about that going forward because I think, you know, well, I'll leave that for my segment. But I just wanted to throw in that my thought on education, and it seems to come up every other week in our broadcasting that our education system has been detrimental to generations.
Well, in our founding, you know, we were about liberty and limited government, right? Socialism kind of flips that on its head, where they want security, they want equality, and historically, I just don't understand how these young folks, they carry around a cell phone in their hand. They have access to instant information. Why they can't simply go to AI and say, can you find me a country that was successful in socialism? You know, they've got an extreme amount of knowledge at their fingertips, but they're not using it. They're not thinking about this rationally or logically. They're thinking about this emotionally. And that's unfortunate.
I think it's also extremely financial because the Democrats have always promised, we'll give you something, we'll take care of you, whether it's labor union contracts, free health care, whatever it is, it's always, we'll give you this stuff for free, we can make it work, and then people just buy into it. So I think your idea of selling out their freedom for security is exactly right. I think that's happened again.
Yeah, I mean, as a Gen Z person myself, I mean, there recently just came a Gallup poll where they said around 66% of people between the age of 18 and 30 have a favorable view of socialism, and then around a 34% favorable view of communism. And I think it speaks to what a lot of people might not be willing to address is the much deeper, more philosophical crisis of our age. And what I mean by that is if you think about what socialism's argument is from like a more of a philosophical standpoint, and that is they view humans in a purely material setting. That is, everything that is defines you, gives purpose in life, is defined by material. That's why they don't say the free market, they say capitalism, because historically Marxism, communism, socialism focuses on capital. And I would argue, they are more the capitalists, is the people that are obsessed with capital. So when you look at society today and you hear about how markets and corporations and businesses and employees and how certain groups are being mistreated against each other, and then how it's really the people in these fancy suits and monopoly hats are destroying everything. For people my age, they see that and like, oh my gosh, yes. And it comes down to almost this victimhood narrative where nothing can be progressed in society until we somehow get rid of these inconveniences. So I would say, why are people my age becoming more favorable of socialism? Is because it gives us an out of saying, hey, not just taking responsibility, but also what's purpose. And I think especially many people my age is, what's purpose in life? And if it's all about material, then there's really not much to do until we've gotten rid of all these people. And I think, of course, this has created that surge of socialism, as you've rightly noted. And I think now we as a society have to take a much deeper look at how do we not just teach the truth, but undo this philosophy that's dominated for more than 100 years across the world, even here in the United States. So I think it's a very valid interest.
Yeah, in politics, there always needs to be a boogeyman, and like Bernie Sanders, he quit blaming the millionaires. Now he blames billionaires because he is a millionaire, right? So it's just, I shake my head. People just, they don't use common sense or critical thought, and that's just that's a travesty. We've got to find a way to push back on this.
Well, I think education is the key word here. Is I agree that it's this stuff is not taught in schools like it used to be, and consequently we've got young people growing up not understanding what socialism is and what capitalism is. So it's an educational problem now. There's a lot of education available out there right now. I mean, we've done on COS Today here. We've done presentations on socialism for years, off and on. But and I know there's other sources out there now, much more than there used to be. But yeah, the challenge is educating people on these things. So I don't know. When the mayor got elected in New York City, one of our other comms team members, we asked him what he thought about what was happening in New York City, and he says, "I'm just going to grab my popcorn and sit back and watch them kill each other, watch them destroy each other." So and that may be what's going to happen. I don't know. You remember him saying that, Ken?
Yeah, I do. And then what's it going to take before they when they finally start eating one another and nothing's left? Will they at that point realize what's happened? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
And will it be too late?
And will it be too late is right. Yeah.
But I think it raises a lot of questions, Frank. There's no doubt about it. That's a good thought. All right, Tim.
Well,
I said Tim.
Oh, Tim. Okay. Well, all right.
Tim.
These 3-letter names got to go. It's either
Mr. T.
Mr. T.
Well, it's been kind of darker out here lately. These last two topics kind of unsettling. I'd like to bring up something that's happy. And I think the fact that we're having this 250th anniversary is tremendous. And I think all the things that are happening are doing great good for our nation. I think they're calling it the Great American State Fair that's happening now in Washington, where they have all these exhibits from most of the states, not all the states, but most of them. The cleanup of the reflecting pool in front of the Washington Monument, and also the reaction of these foreign people who are visiting because of the soccer tournament. I think that's having a tremendously good effect around the world for our nation. And if you haven't seen them yet, you can go out to YouTube and look for some of these videos of what the visitors are saying about our country. It's amazing to see them go into a store like one guy, there was a video, his first bite of Kentucky Fried Chicken, how wonderful it was. Other guys were saying, they hold up a cup and they say, well, I went in here and I bought this drink and then they gave me a free refill. Can you imagine that? A free refill? We'd never get that in England. They're talking about air conditioning. All of our buildings are air conditioned and they don't have any air conditioning, very little, like one room in their houses in their country. It's just a lot of positive things. And I think when the people back in their home countries see those videos and see what happens, it's going to take away some of the sting of all the negative press that we get around the world about how bad America is. They also say a lot about how friendly people are, how all of Americans are trying to help them and guide them and do good things for them while they're here.
I'd say what company produces ranch dressing? Is that Kraft?
Well, it's probably an offshoot of Procter and Gamble or something. But yeah, that's the other thing is they love ranch dressing. I wonder how many of them are going to be smuggling it back in their luggage and getting caught by the TSA.
That's amazing. That's amazing. That apparently that's in very, very high demand. Yeah. Ranch dressing, I'll tell you.
We may see a lot more tourism from other countries in the future just because of this.
I think it will. I think you're right.
Yeah.
I don't follow soccer. How much longer will this World Cup tournament last? How much longer does it last? Do you know?
We're in the knockout. We're in the knockout round now. So
yeah,
another couple of weeks, isn't it, Kim?
Yeah, it's a good couple of weeks. Once you get through the knockout rounds, now you get down to it's single elimination, and the knockout round generally leaves three nations in a group, so it doesn't take too much long. Another couple of weeks.
Will they still be at various locations around the country, or are they becoming more centralized?
The locations that it's played in will get narrower, and of course, the final obviously will be played here in the States, so centrally.
Where is the final to be played? Do you know?
I believe, although I haven't checked the long range on that, I believe it might be in Dallas. I'm if I'm not mistaken, but I could be wrong.
Yeah.
New Jersey.
New Jersey. Okay, yeah, you're right. It is New Jersey. Yes.
That's really close to Dallas, Ken.
Yeah. Well, I think there was a total of 14 games played at Dallas, so I thought that the large number would probably include that. But Hunter's right; it is in New Jersey, and being that's where I was born and raised. I don't understand why. But
it's New Jersey. That's the answer.
It is New Jersey. That's why. Yeah, I was, I thought if Trump had any control over that, he would have picked a more accompanying type state to deal with that. But
anyway,
who knows?
All right. Well, Tim, that's a good thought. That's a good piece. I agree with you. I think I think we're going to see long-term benefits from this. I really do.
Well, we don't see people saying the same thing about China, do we? Oh, geez, let's all take a trip to China and see what kind of food they have. Oh, let's break the wall down and get into China. No, they're all trying to get into America, and more people are knowing it.
Yeah,
it's true. Yeah.
But oh my goodness, what a terrible country we have, huh? My goodness.
Well, if you listen to the news,
Yeah, that's half the problem.
It is. It is. We could talk. That's a whole nother topic. We could talk about that for a long time.
So let me say one more thing, Dale.
Okay.
That's one thing these guys keep saying over and over. They say their news media in their country says how bad America is.
That's right. I've heard that.
It's not just the news media in our country that says it, it's in all the other countries too. So I think that's significant.
Yeah, that's a good point. Good point.
Mm.
I've
Yeah.
heard that said too. But and it's true. if you listen to, I'm forced to listen to some other news outlets, and I tell you, it's quite evident the negative tone, the negative touch, I should say. All right, Ken with a K.
All right, now I got the letter straight.
Now you got it right.
Now I got the letter straight. Well, I'm going to kind of go back and piggyback a little bit off of what Frank was talking about. I think most of us will probably admit that we all have a family member, or more than one family member, that you kind of scratch your head and say to yourself, why do you think that way? Or, how do they ever get this way that people think the way they do? And why? And Frank mentioned it. Why not common sense? Where is that? Why can't people put on a logical thinking cap and look at something and come away with, at least by analyzing both sides, come up with a decision that that they could live with? And I had pulled up some notes I had on that, because I had the same question. Well, I've got some family members. It's become difficult to you can't carry on any of those conversations. That's all got to be left off the table at any gathering. So when you can't think strategically. You can't think strategically if your mind is already committed to a particular outcome. That's one of the things that I think I look at. And the moment we become emotionally attached to a conclusion, we stop analyzing and start filtering information, to support what we already believe. And when you sit down at a chessboard, I saw this analogy the other day, and I thought it was a good one. When you sit down at a chessboard, one side is black and one side is white. And other than color, there's neither side has an identity. They don't have a race. There's no religion, no political party, no emotions. They're simply pieces moving according to certain rules. So the moment you become emotionally attached to one side of the board, your analysis becomes distorted. Whether we're talking about warfare, politics, business, human nature, the first step is understanding reality before deciding what should be done about it. So that's the part that I scratch my head on. There's got to be a reality. So it doesn't mean abandoning compassion or values. It just means understanding reality first. So quite honestly, both the left and the right often make the same mistake. I think we can see that happen quite a bit. Both sides can make that same mistake. And one side becomes emotionally invested in one conclusion. The other side becomes emotionally invested in the opposite conclusion. So there you are. And both can become blinded to what is actually happening. So what I try to understand the entire system rather than focusing on a single piece of it, to me, that's the key. People aren't stepping back and looking at the big picture. They're not measuring either side. So somebody who is invested in socialism, they're already sold on getting all the free stuff, and not, and you know, some of them look at it as a way of being able to stay in mom and pop's basement playing video games, and that's pretty appealing. Have everything else taken care of. And that brings up another whole question of drive in America, and what people strive to be, you know, and what drives people. That's another whole topic we could get into. But you know, most people look at one board. They don't look at both sides of things. And of course, like I said, you know, the mistake people make is treating them as separate games, when in reality they really are all connected. And I think that's a big mistake that people make. And you know, you tie in education and years of hearing the same thing over and over again. It's like listening to the news that we've been listening to for decades, and it really does distort the picture. Thoughts?
That's pretty heavy, Ken.
Well, you know, when you look at when you're trying to figure out a family member, and the same, you know, and you get this rinse repeat, you know, option. I thought a lot of times that has to be there has to be a connection, and I think people do run by emotion. I think that's a big charge behind everything.
Yeah, that's for
and
sure.
it takes a little discipline to sit back and say, well, what is the bigger picture here? I mean, look at a mechanic. If you look at a mechanic, he's looking at a particular part to fix. If you look at an engineer, he's looking at how to develop the next best multiple part car put together. Look at, you know, Elon Musk. He doesn't look at fixing the a rocket. He looks at building the next best rocket. So and
Yeah, but those parts don't have any emotions.
True, but the person looking at them or repairing them does.
Yes.
Yeah. So
But
I don't
you
know.
Ken, I think it's also a difference in. It's like people that come up with these policies on the Democratic Party side don't seem to understand the whole life cycle of what's going to happen if that policy is implemented. They're only looking at a short-term effect that it's going to have. And I noticed that in some of my family members too. They don't necessarily see this thing all the way to the end. For example, Mondami's rent control thing. Yeah, he can freeze the rent on all those apartment buildings, which may, you know, stop people from having to pay more rent. But the long-term effect of that is those buildings are going to get less and less maintenance, and pretty soon those people are going to be out of a place to live because they're not going to have what they want. I mean, that's exactly what happens to all the city buildings up there. They don't have water, they don't have anything, whatever. They're not clean. They turn into slums because they don't think about the whole life cycle of what they need to do with that policy. I think it's short-sightedness, or they just don't know how to think through a problem like that. I think a lot of the other policies, like a lot of what Trump has been doing about the economy, first of all, you bring in capital, then you bring in new inventions or new technology, and then you build your market by selling it to more places in the world. That all fits together like one big life cycle. But I just don't see that on the other side's policies.
I think you're right, Tim. I mean, that's really true. Is when you look at that particular example of housing, and yeah, they're all looking at the real short term of it. Yeah, it's going to keep I won't have to go out and get another job, or I won't have to steal a few more tomatoes. I'll be able to hang out here, and then like I said, when the tab runs out and it's time to pay the piper, so to speak, those people are suddenly out, and the government now takes over the building, which is their ultimate goal anyway. They want to take over all that property. It just cascades. Go ahead, Frank.
But our representative republic requires us to have skin in the game, and if you don't have skin in the game, you can look at socialism as an opportunity to live off of the federal government, and the problem that they don't see is that it's short-term security, because when other people's money run out, you're just going to have chaos. And I just wish they would do some more research on this thing. It's sad.
So how long Frank, do you think it'll be before all the billionaires in New York or in Florida and Tennessee, and the chickens come home to roost in New York? I mean, does it go another year?
You're already seeing the mass exodus. Look at California. Yeah, you know, they tried to float a bill that was going to tax billionaires, a billionaire tax, and it was going to be retroactive. So the billionaires went, "Whoa, I need to leave now before this bill, because it might pass." So and
I think Hunter brought up Hunter brought up something in the pre-show about our famed governor out there, obviously wanting a billionaire's tax, but just the opposite in California. So he wants to chase them around the country too at this point.
Yeah, it's crazy. But then you look at all the fraud. Our government has just taken over everything, and here we are with Convention of States, and why we need an Article 5 is to take back the state power and right size federal government. So,
yeah, and Ken, I think you brought up a really good point about the emotional state, because I think one of the uniting factors when looking at these individuals that describe themselves as democratic socialists is that a lot of times they're full of rage and fear, and it begins with fear in this essence, as we've kind of seen with the 2008 recession, the ongoing uncertainty about the markets, since 2020 with the COVID recession, just perpetual uncertainty. And then you have these individuals who come out essentially as self-anointed intelligentsia, saying they found all the solutions to all the problems, and that if they themselves were in power, they would somehow fix it all in, one big swoop. I think at that end, you see then, of course, what do? They get collectively, angry to say, well, now who's to blame for all these problems? It's the billionaires. It's the 1%. It's the trillionaire Elon Musk. It's these people in these institutions of power ongoing. And weirdly enough, James Carville, when he asked about the recent DSA challengers in these primaries, he even said about Democrats having a literal schism. He said, we're going to talk about the S word, schism. And I think the fact we are hearing that from the side that's with a voter base that largely views socialism way more positively than the other side, that is Republicans, it says a lot. And so now you have all these people who are just angry at the entire thing. So the question is whether or not, how can we as a society show that, hey, yes, there are legitimate concerns. Yes, you can't, we understand why you're upset, but understanding that socialism is somehow going to fix everything, in the end, it doesn't. Democratically or through some violent proletariat revolution like Marx. So it doesn't matter what the methodology is to get there. It still ends in the same conclusion.
Yeah.
I think that's where with Article 5 and Convention of States is, look, yes, we're upset about a lot of things, but we're not going to violently overturn the entire thing, when really the issue isn't necessarily a matter of the system. It's just who's in charge, and how do we find ways to make sure, hey, we got something good, we just need to fix it here and there, and we're not going to make things perfect, but we're going to do way better than we were 2 seconds ago.
It's the solution as big as the problem.
Precisely.
Okay, we got just a few minutes left here. I just want to throw out a little bit about Iran. I mean, guys, what is going to happen in Iran? It's getting frustrating just listening every day to what goes on, what doesn't go on, I don't know. I just wish, I really do. I wish they'd just go in and get this finally done. I don't know what that's going to take. And probably if it's going to take boots on the ground, I know that's something he doesn't want to do. But because I'm not sure who they're really negotiating with. I don't think they know who they're negotiating with. So it's really it's getting frustrating to me, at least. And I hope this gets cleared up pretty soon. I just hope it gets cleared up pretty soon. It's,
Well, earlier we talked about passion and ideology, and those folks are not going to come off of their position, right? Those hardliners are not going to change. It's just like some of the conversations we've had here earlier. I think Trump is simply going to manage this for the time being through the election, and then hopefully find some way that the people of Iran rise up
I
effectively.
know that I've heard that said, Frank, and I agree with you that, but I never see anything in the news about the people.
Right.
I mean, I know that I just did a presentation last week, as a matter of fact, on the different factions in Iran. Their society is pretty complicated. I mean, there's a lot of different factions, but I have not heard of any one other than the IGRC being the dominant one. I have heard nothing about any other faction rising up,
Right.
becoming strong enough to.
Well, what did the IRGC do? They slaughtered like 30,000 people.
Yeah.
In this last rise.
Well, they got the guns. I mean, they got
Yeah.
the security. They got the power.
Well, there might be a solution there to arm the uprising effectively. Now,
Yeah.
there was some. I did hear that Trump tried that, but the group that he tried doing it through kept the weapons or something. So it's just it's a mess, absolute mess.
Well, I hope they find a way out of this very soon and get this settled.
I think Frank was right, though, about him just managing it at this point. I think what he'd like to do is manage it, and you've seen some of the brilliant things he's done to bring the gas down, bring prices down. I think he'd like to have that show up here, obviously by midterms, that that the economy's getting better, and people start saying, I no doubt about it, my eggs are cheaper and I'm paying less at the pump, so maybe he's doing things right. And then let Iran kind of continue to be Iran. And as I said earlier in our pre-talk a little bit, I think he's happy to let it bubble over into the rest of the world, where they finally have to say, you know what, we got to get off our rumps here and get involved and start demanding concessions from Iran and getting that thing straightened out.
Well, Iran is also in an economic freefall.
Yeah.
So very similar to what he's doing in Cuba. We're not hearing a lot about Cuba right now.
That's
So
true.
It's kind of managing these things on a chessboard, to bring it back to your analogy, Ken.
Yeah.
All right, guys, that's we got to end it there. Got to move on. So, Frank, Tim, Hunter, thank you very much for participating tonight. Tim, don't go away for very long, because Tim's going to come back and give us a presentation on the future of warfare in our country with AI and so forth. So Frank, Hunter, thank you very much, guys. Thank you.
You guys
for
have a
having me
nice
here.
day.
See you
Thanks.
guys.
All right, Ken. Another good one. I'll tell you, we actually went a little over time on that segment. But
we probably could have gone on longer, right? But
we could have gone on longer. Yeah.
That's what
no
happens
doubt
in a
about
lot
it.
of these in focus groups. But
Yeah. Well, let's. Our friend John Ackerman has gotten on his soapbox again, and wants to talk about happiness. So let's take a listen to John. What John has to say on his soapbox this evening.
All right.
John Ackerman for Convention of States. The COS application has been approved by 20 states. We simply must get to that magic number of 34 states so we can have the long-awaited convention to propose amendments to the Constitution. Success is often determined not by talent, intelligence, or opportunity, but by a willingness to take responsibility. 3 simple statements capture this truth. If it's everybody's job, it's nobody's job. If not now, when? If not you, who? Together, these words challenge us to stop waiting for others, stop making excuses, and start taking action. The first statement, if it's everybody's job, it's nobody's job, reminds us that responsibility cannot be delegated to an anonymous crowd. In families, workplaces, churches, schools, and communities, important tasks are often overlooked because everyone assumes that someone else will handle it. A piece of trash remains on the floor because everyone walks past it. A problem remains unsolved because everyone expects someone else to step forward. Real progress begins when an individual says, "I'll do it." The second statement, if not now, when, comes from the ancient Jewish sage Hillel the Elder, who confronts the temptation to procrastinate. We humans are experts at finding reasons to delay action. We tell ourselves that tomorrow will be better than today, that conditions will improve, or that we'll be better prepared later. Yet tomorrow has a way of becoming next week, next month, next year. Opportunities are often lost not because we lacked ability, but because we waited too long. The best time to begin is rarely when everything is perfect. The best time is usually right now. The third statement, if not you, who, calls us to personal responsibility. It's easy to admire leaders while assuming they possess some special quality that we don't. In reality, many of history's most influential people were ordinary individuals who simply chose to act when others hesitated. They saw a need and filled it. They recognized a problem and solved it. They understood that someone had to step forward, and they decided that that someone would be them. These 3 ideas reinforce one another. Taking responsibility means refusing to assume that someone else will do the work. Acting now means refusing to postpone what needs to be done. And accepting responsibility and personal accountability means recognizing that each one of us has the power to make a difference. Imagine what would happen if more people lived by these principles. Communities would become stronger, workplaces would become more productive, families would become more supportive, problems that seem overwhelming would begin to shrink because individuals would stop waiting and start acting. Every day presents opportunities to practice this mindset. A neighbor needs help. A project needs a leader. A friendship needs encouragement. A wrong needs righted. In each situation, the same questions arise. If not now, when? And if not you, who? The people who change the world are rarely those who wait for perfect circumstances. They are the ones who accept responsibility, take initiative, and act. Their example reminds us that meaningful change begins with a single decision, the decision to step forward when everyone else is standing still. So when you see a need, don't assume someone else will take care of it. When an opportunity appears, don't postpone action until a more convenient time. And when a challenge demands leadership, don't underestimate your ability to make a difference. What can you do to help COS reach its goal of 34 states? Remember, if it's everybody's job, it's nobody's job. If not now, when? And if not you, who?
I don't think that was about happiness, Ken.
That was the latest one from John.
All right.
But
We got to
if you think about that, if some of the things he's talking about actually happen, we'd actually be happy.
Well, we would be happier. That
So
is.
let's throw that on the end of there, and we've reached
Okay, well,
happiness.
We'll just leave it at that. Okay. All right. We got to coordinate that a little bit better. But anyway. Okay. Well, let's move on then. I said that we were going to bring Tim Heidenreich back to talk about the future of warfare. He wants to start calling it military uses for AI. So I'm anxious to hear what he's got to say tonight. So let's bring him back here. Glad you're still
Hey guys, I'm still here.
And you look happy, Tim. You actually look happy. So that's
Well,
good.
I am happy. What John had to say really cheered me up.
see, Tim, if you take what John says, and if you accept this to do this series on military uses, see, if you take the lead, it gets done. See, if not you, who, and whatever the third one was, if when or now or whatever. Okay,
We're going to have to coordinate this a little better, I think, Dale.
Well, Dale, it could be, if it's not me, it could be you. I mean, taking what John had to say.
Oh, I see. Oh, if it's not you, it could be me. I see. All right.
Well, let me tell you why I think we should change the name of this series.
Okay.
I really don't know what the future of warfare is going to be. I don't know. And I think that's a frightening concept. People are so afraid of artificial intelligence is going to take over. They're going to be bombing everybody in the world. We're not going to have any control. The robots are going to kill us all. And we're going to be all dead. I don't want people to get that idea. What I think we should talk about is how artificial intelligence can really help all of our military efforts. And that's why I think there's 10 different sections here. A couple of those sections do not deal with warfare at all. They deal with things like emergency and disaster response. You know, our military gets called out to do a lot of that. That's not warfare, but that's something artificial intelligence can help us with. Or training, simulation, medical improvements. There's a lot of things like that, logistics, that aren't necessarily warfare. They contribute to warfare, but they don't have that same cast on them. That's why I think a better term for what we're going to do, if indeed we do this for 10 times, is uses for military uses for artificial intelligence.
Okay.
Yeah, and
if that'll get you to do this, you can call it whatever you want.
well, that and money always works with me.
Oh yeah, money. In convention of states, you know what that means.
I know. Well, let me get into this so we're not doing this all night.
All right.
You know, one of the things people misconceive about artificial intelligence is, my view of this, the way that you use it is, it's coordinating an awful lot or overwhelming amount of data that human beings can't handle very well. It's just too much for us to use with our human characteristics. It's putting those things together and giving us humans responses that we can use to help in our decision support system, as a decision support system. And clearly in the military, closing or shortening the decision cycle is the most important thing you can do if you're talking about warfighting. On the other hand, making more accurate decisions is something the military can use in a lot of areas: logistics, disaster relief, all those kind of things, training, simulations. All those kind of things care about accuracy, and artificial intelligence is built to do that. Just like the difference between a wood carver carving a plaque for a wall with a chisel and a hammer, or using a computer-guided CNC machine to get it all done. You could make 50 of the same one if you have a CNC machine running it, but you try to get a guy to do 50 of them exactly alike, you're not going to get them. So that's where artificial intelligence, I think, has a lot to do with a lot of uses in military. So I had sent you a list earlier, Dale, and let me just run down that list of what those 10 things are. And it looks like we'll probably wind up doing 10 shows like that. So the first one that we're going to do tonight is about intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. Then the next one would be cyber defense. Then we'll have one on logistics and supply, one on predictive maintenance. Think of all the equipment that the military has. One on decision support, autonomous and semi-autonomous systems where the machines can actually do a lot of the work for us. One on training and simulation, medical support, humanitarian and disaster response, and space operations. So those are the 10 that I think would work for us that we could do them. How does that sound to you guys?
Yeah, it sounds very good. And like I said, if you think if you want to combine a couple of them here and there, if you think you can do that, that's fine too. But you know, you talk about response. What was the one on disaster response? Have you seen any of the clips on what's going on in Venezuela and the pulling people out of that rubble? And that's amazing. That's amazing.
But our guys do that every time there's a hurricane or an earthquake, or, you know, what about when Trump sent the National Guard to Washington, D.C., or where else did he send them? Memphis. I mean, that's not exactly a disaster. I guess you could say it's kind of a disaster. But I mean, the military has to handle all those things that are not warfighting. That's why I don't like the idea of calling this warfighting.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We'll go along.
Okay. So let's talk about intelligence, surveillance, and response for our first show. The most important thing about security and surveillance is that you can put various systems together. You know, that you talk about layered defense, how they have different borders or boundaries around, like the White House. You might have 3 or 4 different layers of defense before you can get to the White House and assassinate the president. Well, that happens in a lot of military operations. And so you have different kinds of sensors gathering data about what are possible threats that are coming to this military organization. You might have helicopters up there flying around. You might have small unit operations like Rangers or LRPs or somebody out there in the field, 3, 4, 5-man teams. They're sending back information. You might have sensors in the ground. You might have drones. You might have dogs. There's just a lot of things that you might have, all of those sending back some kind of reports. And you need a good way to coordinate all that stuff together to the guy that's got to make a decision about, is this a real threat or is this a fake threat, or are they doing a simulated attack on one side of our operation, but the real attack's going to be on the other side? So having artificial intelligence to put that data together and organize it is a good thing to have. So for instance, with artificial intelligence, you could have them analyzing some high-risk area. They could be using satellite pictures. They could be looking at social media comments that are being made, posts that are being made, because more and more people who are threatening others and then putting it on social media. We're going to do this big thing and save the world. So that's a good place to look. You want to coordinate the weather data, road traffic information. There's a whole lot of different areas where you could be getting information, and it's hard for a few people in a command center to put all that together. But artificial intelligence could help them come up with a more accurate picture of what the threat really is. Does that make sense?
Yep. Yes, it does.
Another thing they can do is AI can analyze thousands of hours of footage from these drones. You know, they can fly these drones for a long time, or like Reapers can fly for hours and hours, and they're taking pictures of all this area. How can a human being sit there and look through all those hours of that? You can't. But you could tell through artificial intelligence programming, you could tell AI, review all this and find certain things that you're looking for. And it could do it much faster than some humans, and probably more accurate, because they can look at, let's say they're looking at satellite pictures. There may be a very small pixel of something in a satellite picture that AI would pick up on that a human wouldn't pick up on. And they can put those in a certain area that they want. They can put them in high thread areas, low thread areas, and they can change the programming on those things so that it does a different pickup. And that can also help with the review and the putting together of all this information.
Do you think, though, that there's still got to be a human to interpret this information, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I don't know.
The decision maker is going to be a human. Yeah.
Is AI going to be someday, you think, going to replace some of those humans? Or will there always be a need for a human?
I don't know, but I think that's it scares a lot of people about AI, and it makes us reluctant to use it when people get scared like it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think we have smart people, and I think God made our brains smarter than we can make any robots. We can't make them that smart, but we can get them to do things that we can't do as well, like the limitations of our vision, the limitations of our hearing, etc. They can help us with those things. If you think back to what happened with the Doge, all this started with the Doge teams, right?
Right.
What did they do with that? They didn't let them make the decisions. What they said is, you go out and look at, I don't even remember what the databases were, but they would go out and get 6 or 8 databases of data, and the AI would compare that, and they'd say, oh, this is where, why is all this money going into this area? Why was this big increase in payments for welfare in this one community, in this one precinct in, let's say, Minnesota? It just pointed that out. And then the human beings could say, oh, yeah, well, we would have never found that. We're glad that AI found that.
That's good. That's true. That's true.
Yeah. So that's what we're talking about here when we're talking about intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. We'll put more and more sensors, the military will, I'm not in the military, we'll put more and more sensors and more things out there that send this data back, and then artificial intelligence can consolidate it, sift through it, put it together, and say, here's my recommendation, and some human being will decide whether they want to do it.
That's a good point, because you know these surveillance this is collecting so much data that it would be impossible for a human to go through it and interpret all that. So,
yeah. And you've seen pictures from World War II or other times in the past, where you see these high altitude airplanes like the Blackbird used to fly over Russia and various places.
right.
And they send back these images, and then you'd see pictures of these guys sitting there with a very high magnifying glass, looking at these printed pictures, trying to say, what is that? Especially when they were moving the missiles into Cuba, you saw that all the time.
Yeah.
They had these specialists with this magnifying glass trying to say, well, is that a military vehicle, or what is that? Is that a car, a pickup truck? What is that? Well, AI will be able to do that much better than us, because it can analyze those pixels all the way down. We can't get to them.
That's a good point. Good point. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, what else happens with those manual human things? The operators get tired. How many hours can you look at those pictures through that magnifying glass?
Right.
Your eyes get all blurry. You can't see very much anymore.
Yep.
But artificial intelligence doesn't get tired. It's the same after it's been working for 40 or 50 hours. It's the same as the first hour it started. So that's another improvement over our manual system. They can also do facial recognition with artificial intelligence, which people can't do that very well. But AI can do that very well. And they can pick a targeted area where they're looking for somebody particularly. You know, the FBI uses that all the time in airports and stuff. They're looking for somebody who's going to be smuggling something through the airport, or some known drug traffickers or something. They can pick them out right when they're getting on the plane and pull those guys out of there. Well, you could use that same thing in military applications. If you know certain high-ranking members of the other army, or if you know certain spies, you can find those people this way with facial recognition that our guys, our human beings, might not be able to find. Now, my Ring camera has got AI on it, and I just discovered this recently. It got an update, and it said, we've got a new feature. Do you want to modify the way that the camera looks for things and notifies you? And what I can do is I can set a zone exactly where that camera is going to look. Like it's on my front porch. Previously, it was getting the whole front porch and it was getting my driveway. I'm able to go out to that thing and I can bring that in so that it's a narrower, it's only looking at this certain place. I can get it at a certain height, and I can say, don't count cars. If a car goes by, don't notify me about that. Only if it's a human being that walks up, I can tell it, don't pick up animals. Isn't that amazing?
Yes.
On my Ring camera. So think what you can do with military cameras.
Interesting. Good.
Another thing that they can do is these AI enhanced drones can operate independently to detect unapproved movements. Let's say that you've got some approved movements going on out there. Maybe you've got trucks bringing in supplies or something on a certain route, and you know that our truck convoy is going to be going at 9 o'clock at night to 10 o'clock at night. You could tell it, don't send me any detection about what's going on between 9 and 10 o'clock, but if it's at any other time where I haven't approved anything on that highway, let me know about it. They can also separate civilians from wildlife and just speed up the response time because they can notify you so quickly.
Yep.
Another one is they let the soldiers modify their surveillance methods depending on what they're trying to get out of it with the algorithms that they use. So if you're trying to predict that your perimeter is being infiltrated, they can write algorithms that evaluates the pattern of movements. Let's say you tell it, look for a human being who's moving slowly, not walking. What if he's crawling through the grass? It can tell you that because you can write a program. Not a program, algorithm, so that it looks for that. That's very useful. And how good are our soldiers at finding that kind of thing? It's hard to find that. That's why they do that. That's why they crawl up on you, because you can't see them. They're laying down. But our surveillance machines could do that, and AI could interpret. Let's see. Another one is they can analyze past events and weather factors and international political dynamics all at once. You can program all of that in there. In the past, these guys have tried to breach the perimeter of our, let's say, our U.S. Embassy in Nicaragua or something. They've tried to breach the perimeter 4 times. And every time they did it, it was a dark, rainy night, and they were using the cover of the weather. And every time they did it, it was right after we had made some political move against their leader or something. You can ask it to put all those things together and predict when we're most likely to get a penetration like that again, another intrusion experience. Can a human being do that? Maybe, but maybe not as well as we can program artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
So those are all little ways that you could use for intelligence and surveillance and reconnaissance. There are ways that you might not think of, but they have application for both military, police, and even corporate security. I used to work for Intel Corporation. One thing they were always worried about is when they're taking a truckload of chips, computer chips, from the factory to some distribution place, are they going to get hijacked and you lose millions of dollars in computer chips? the same thing can be used for them, just like it could be used for the military.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of uses for this, and I don't see any of that as threatening to us. I see that as enhancing our ability. It's good in warfare or it's good in peacetime. And I think it makes a lot of sense for us to keep using artificial intelligence for these things and to lead the world in it, because we won't be good at warfare if somebody else gets ahead of us.
Yeah. Good, Tim. Very good. I'm just once again reminded of the ability of AI to filter through information, to go through data and information so much faster and quicker than human beings can, and the amount of so I was really impressed with your point about the surveillance, all the surveillance film and so forth, and analyzing that type of thing. I think that's very, very important. Very important. All right. Well, Tim, any other closing thoughts, or have we left anything out here?
I guess I would like to say about artificial intelligence, I think people misunderstand it. I like to view it as a very capable search engine that can give me better results than what we've had all along with basic search engines. You know, we say into Google, how much money did the guys make on the Friends show when they were on it for all those years? Or some question like that, and it gives you an answer. The difference with artificial intelligence is you can say, go look at database A and database B and database C and database D, and give me a matrix showing some factor about this that I want to know about. And artificial intelligence can do that, but just your basic search engine can't do that.
Right.
So
right.
that it's not like it's going to take over our human thinking. It's just going to expand our capabilities to get the information that we want because it can search for it. That's the way I like to think of it.
All right. Very good. Very good. Ken, we get any comments or questions from viewers for Tim?
Not at this time. We don't have any. No, I think everybody's just trying to absorb all this, and yeah, it's a big subject, and so yeah, we might get some more later on, or by the time Tim gets into 2, 3, and 4, we may have some regulars on here asking him all kinds of things. So yeah.
All right, Tim. Thank you very much, and we'll be talking to you about part 2 coming up.
Okay.
With
Good being with you guys tonight.
Military uses for AI. All right. Thanks, Tim.
Good
Thank you
night.
very much. Thank you.
Good night.
Very good. Very good. I think that'll be an interesting series.
Of course. Yeah.
That'll be good.
Everybody's interested in what's going on there with AI. So,
well, Ken, I got a couple pieces here that I want to present tonight. The first one has to do with what is called low barrier shelters. Do you know what a low barrier shelter is? I think I've asked you this before, haven't I?
low barrier shelter sounds like something that's not too far underground and can get hit easily. That's all it sounds like to me.
No, it doesn't have anything to do with that.
Okay.
I won't go into any detail on it right now because I explained it in my presentation here.
There you go.
Recorded presentation. But this is a bit of a controversy that we're dealing with here in our community, and I have found out that these are in a lot of other communities too, and somewhat controversial.
This sounds like an immigration problem.
No.
Okay, I'm 0 for 2, but that's okay. We'll leave it up to you.
Okay. Well, let's listen to what I got to say here.
All right.
Greetings, everyone. Dale Parrish, host COS today. Low barrier shelters. Let's get right to it. Tonight, we're going to discuss low barrier shelters, a topic that combines homelessness, addiction, public safety, compassion, and taxpayer responsibility. My local community here is debating this issue right now, and quite honestly, it's been shelved for right now, but it's going to be coming back. But I thought before forming any definite opinions on this, it would help to understand both the benefits and the concerns about low barrier shelters. What is a low barrier shelter? Well, a low barrier shelter removes many traditional entry requirements to get people indoors quickly. Traditional shelters often require sobriety or program participation. Low barrier shelters focus first on shelter access. That means in a low barrier shelter, you don't have to, it's my understanding, you don't have to be ready to enter recovery. You can come in high, you can come in sober. That's my understanding. So that's where you get the term low barrier shelter. Very interesting. Why are communities considering them? Communities are exploring these shelters because homelessness, addiction, mental illness, and housing shortages continue to grow. There's no doubt about that. Many cities face increasing demands on emergency services, shelters, and public resources. Some arguments in favor. Supporters argue these shelters save lives and provide a first step toward stability. Advocates point to greater engagement with services and opportunities for eventual housing placement. Arguments against. Critics question whether these programs reduce incentives for recovery and whether they create neighborhood concerns. And neighborhood concerns is a definite issue. At least it is in our community here. Critics point other questions, the long-term outcomes, and whether the costs produce meaningful change. Let's look at some communities where they've done this already. San Francisco became a national leader in housing first policies, but later created sober shelter options for those seeking recovery-focused environments. Portland has experimented with multiple shelter models and continues to evaluate results. So no clear-cut results there. Seattle and Denver show how difficult it is to balance compassion, accountability, recovery, and public safety. And that is a real issue, balancing those particular segments. Very difficult issue. Here is a big question. Should taxpayers pay? The taxpayer funding question is often the most controversial aspect of the debate. No doubt about it. So regardless of political viewpoint, most citizens agree success should be measurable. Are fewer people sleeping outdoors? Are more people entering treatment? Are more people finding permanent housing? Taxpayers deserve clear benchmarks and regular reporting on outcomes. So in closing, the central question remains, are low barrier shelters a pathway to recovery, a temporary solution, or simply a way of managing homelessness? So I don't know. I don't know what the solution is here, quite honestly. I guess personally, I'm not in favor of these, but I don't have an option. I don't have a solution in mind at this point in time. So hopefully, as time goes on and as the debate goes on and as we study other communities and how their efforts at this has turned out, we'll learn more about it and come to a decision on it for our community. But I thought it was interesting to delve into this topic, at least to know more about what is being discussed and what we're talking about. So hope you've enjoyed this. Thank you. Good evening. So what do you think, Ken?
Well, I guess if I had taken my next stab at things, I would have maybe gone to homelessness after immigration and the first one was obviously way off as far as an underground shelter, but
Right.
I'm partially influenced by just an experience I had in actually videotaping a successful housing, I'd say housing development center that was getting big success because they weren't funded by pharmaceutical companies or some of the big corporations or hospitals. They basically were able to have success because they let people come in, and as the difference that I saw between what you were talking about and what I saw was that it wasn't just, okay, come on in, there's no real requirements, but you need a place to stay tonight, and there's a bed over there, go ahead and have at it. They once somebody needs some shelter like that, they have to agree to have some actual sessions. I'd put them as sessions to talk about how to become what's the word I'm looking for? How to become a part of society that actually participates. Finding something that these people are actually can be good at, and help them generate some positive thinking towards pulling themselves up by their bootstraps.
We have a facility in our community. It's called the Rescue Mission.
Yeah.
And that's basically, from my understanding, that's basically the program. Yes, you can come into that facility and spend the night, but you have to agree to engage in recovery type efforts.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I believe you got to be sober. You've got to be you can't be high. So you've got to be ready and willing to engage in these efforts in order to have shelter there. But in the low barrier shelter, the main objective is getting you off the street, and you don't have to agree to these other things or participate in these other things. This is that's my understanding.
I hear you.
Getting you off the street, and
just getting you off the street.
You could be drunk, you could be high, but anyway.
And the I guess the one problem that jumps out at me with that situation, Dale, is okay. So you got three guys that come in. One's high, two are drunk, and they get in a fight.
Yeah.
You're like I said. I guess there's there's some point, I think, when we look at homelessness and the reasons for it. First of all, I think there's a lot of them that are veterans, which is really disturbing.
Yeah.
But I think the person really needs to have gotten to the point where he'd like a better life. He'd like to do something with his life. And I think that's the one that I was involved with. That was part of what they did. They looked at areas that the person might have some abilities, but maybe he can draw, maybe he can, do some different things. And they actually help facilitate that and try and produce a little bit of goodwill towards getting somebody to come back from something by participating.
But there's this group that is not interested in doing that.
Yeah,
they just want to be high. They just want to be drunk. And do we want to let them sleep on the streets? Do we want to let them be on the streets, or do we want a place for them to at least sleep every night? So I don't know.
It's difficult. It's obviously there's a lot of it's complicated. There's a lot that goes into that. But
yeah. All right. We'll spend more time on this maybe at a later time. Like I said, this right now in our community, this has been shelved. The mayor had a building picked out, but the city council didn't approve it. So it'll be coming back again, I'm sure. And we'll see how it goes from there. Yeah. In the meantime, let's move on, Ken. And we got a Dave's Daily Dose this week.
We do.
And I hope it's the one, the right one. I think he's going to talk about Vice President Vance here, and
J.D. Vance.
So let's listen to Dave's Daily Dose here.
All right.
I'm sorry, Donald who? As we speak, J.D. Vance is dealing with 4,000 or 5,000 journalists and other people who shout and scream questions. And he's getting lots of on-the-job training, and dare I say, he's acting like a president. One question came out: what kind of experience does he have dealing with hostile actors, hard-bitten, nasty enemies who want to rip his face off? His response: I just spent an hour on The View yesterday, and now Joy Behar and I are the best of friends. This is Dave's Daily Dose on BrokenRoadRadio.com. I'm David Allen Punt. What a refreshing performance. Vance had opening statements about the Iran deal, that nobody's getting American money, that Gulf states love this deal and hated Obama's deal, that frozen money won't be released until the mullahs behave themselves, and they don't get nukes. Never. Hopefully, the entire press conference was recorded, and the entire press conference will be required watching and listening for everyone who wants to commit the time to do so. Runs just about an hour. If there's something in that explanation that somebody doesn't understand, they should watch it again and think about what they don't understand. Frankly, Jim and I were totally conflummoxed this morning, lost in headlines trying to understand and respond to 3 competing news sources about the Iran deal, with 3 different stories quoting 3 different people on what happened and who signed what with whom, and nobody agreed with anybody. JD cleared it all up. Rip out that page, wipe your mind clean, start over. Take a deep breath, relax, watch the gas prices fall back down to $2 a gallon, and get ready for the midterms. Frankly, I like our prospects with our new president. Our new president in waiting. Our potentially new president who still has to get elected. One questioner asked JD about that, asked him who he wanted to be the next president. Vance asked him his name. He said Joe Kaflatzenflatzen or something like that. And Vance said, I would like to see Joe Kaflatzenflatzen run for president. Next question. I still want to have that beer. I'm David Allen Punt.
That was a good one. I didn't watch The View. Did you?
No, I didn't. I caught some of the captions or some of the banter that went back and forth, relayed through other people. But no, I didn't watch it.
I do think Vance carries himself very well. I think he.
Yeah, I think he does, and I think it's there's a couple of people obviously in that administration that do very well.
Yeah. I'd say the same thing for Rubio too.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Rubio stands out as somebody who carries himself.
Do you know how old Marco Rubio is?
We should check with AI about that, I guess.
I already did.
You did. You're ahead of me. Okay. So what'd you come up with?
Well, I want to know, how old do you think he is? How old?
I think he is, based on JD and based on how long Rubio's been around, I'd say he's probably, I'm going to guess 51.
Well, you're not too far off. 55.
Okay.
I didn't realize he was that old, quite honestly. But
yeah, I was going to hesitate to be in the 40s.
How old do you think Vance is?
Oh, Vance is younger. Vance is either early 40s or he's in the late 30s.
Yeah, you're right. 42.
Yeah.
All right. Next, I have another presentation for you, Ken.
All right.
Do you have in your neighborhood, the area that you live in, are there any festivals planned for this summer?
Festivals. Well, the obvious one is the state fair. That one starts in August.
Okay.
Other than that, there's probably a few that I'm not coming to the top of my head, but
like neighborhood festivals or business district festivals, community festivals.
Yeah, nothing that comes to mind. They're not in the immediate area. Yeah.
If you did, would there be a drag queen show?
Would there be a drag queen show? Well, let's see. That probably wouldn't have a good probability of happening until maybe the start of the new school year. But I'd probably get in trouble for that. But no, I don't think so. No. Mm-mm.
Well, we have a festival coming up in our community.
Okay.
We have a number of festivals, but we have a festival coming up, and it's every year. It's a routine thing, and it's advertised as a family event.
Oh.
And there's a drag queen show as part of it.
I see. Part of it. Okay.
Yeah, as part of the entertainment.
Now does that entertainment start like at 11 p.m. or?
I don't know.
Like late night television.
There have been video clips of past festivals, and there's families and little kids there.
Yeah.
So anyway, I did a little thing on this, and so I thought you might be interested in this.
All right. We don't have to warn our viewers or anything, do we?
No.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. Family festivals, drag queen shows. Let's get started. Let me bring up my PowerPoint here. Tonight, I'd like to discuss an issue that has generated strong opinions in communities across America. And we're experiencing that here in the community where I live right now. But before we begin, let me tell you what this presentation is and what it is not. This isn't about criticizing any individual or group. It's about asking a constitutional question. When a public event is advertised as a family festival, who decides what is appropriate for that setting? That's the question I'd like us to think through together tonight. Every community wants successful festivals that bring families together. Parents, grandparents, and children come expecting food, music, and activities they can enjoy together. When a controversy develops over entertainment, the real issue becomes trust. Do families know what they're attending? Were expectations clear? Can people disagree respectfully while still working together as a community? What's happening? Okay. Across the country, some communities have included drag performances at public festivals that are promoted as family events. In some places, there has been little controversy. In others, there has been protests, public meetings, and passionate debate. That tells me this isn't simply about one performance. It's about differing expectations for what belongs at a family-oriented public event. People approach this issue from different perspectives. Some emphasize free expression and inclusion. Others emphasize parental responsibility and age-appropriate programming. In a free society, those viewpoints will sometimes collide. Our challenge isn't to silence one another. Our challenge is to decide these questions through respectful local self-government. Very important. Underscore self-government. Constitutional considerations. The Constitution protects freedom of speech and expression. Those protections are fundamental. At the same time, local governments regularly make programming decisions for parks, festivals, and public events. Citizens have every right to participate in those decisions through public meetings, elections, and constructive dialogue. That's how self-government is supposed to work. Parents and community standards. Now let me talk about parents for a minute. If I take my family to an event that's advertised as family friendly, I think it's reasonable to expect clear information about the entertainment being offered. That doesn't tell anyone what they must believe. It simply allows parents to make informed decisions for their own children. Public funding, public spaces, very critical here. Whenever taxpayer dollars or public facilities are involved, citizens naturally ask questions. Was the decision transparent? Were community members heard? Does the programming reflect the purpose of the event? Those are fair questions in any community, regardless of the specific issue being discussed. Some approaches. Well, so where do we go from here? I don't think the answer is more shouting. I think the answer is better communication. Communities, can establish clear event guidelines, describe performances accurately, invite public input, and make decisions openly. Whether people ultimately agree or disagree, transparency builds trust. COS core values. This discussion reminds me why Convention of States emphasizes self-governance. Citizens should engage respectfully, apply constitutional principles, treat one another with dignity, and seek practical solutions. That's how healthy communities solve difficult issues. In summary, let me close with this. Tonight wasn't really about one type of performance. It was about something much bigger. How do we balance constitutional liberty, parental responsibility, community standards, and local decision-making? Those conversations won't always be easy, but that's exactly what self-government requires. Stay informed, attend local meetings, respect those who disagree with you, and never underestimate the importance of engaged citizens in preserving both liberty and strong communities. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time on COS Today. Well, I hope you've enjoyed that brief presentation on community festivals, and specifically, I wanted to focus somewhat on the drag shows because that seems to be the controversy that we're dealing with here in our community here locally. So I hope this has been helpful to you. Appreciate your time, and thank you very much, and hope to see you on COS Today at a later time. Thank you very much.
Well, Dale, I don't know whether I necessarily see it as the big controversy. We are, I think, when you look at when you talk about the Constitution and everything and our land, we are a land of laws, and I think that some of those are very clear when it comes to alcohol, when it comes to driving, when it comes to owning a firearm. I think there are some very specific age requirements that are set in there based on someone's maturing brain availability. And I think it's pretty black and white to me that these festivals that are promoted as family oriented, that if your entertainment wanting to become part of that, I think basically, unless you can meet a certain age requirement to attend your event, that there's really no place for that where there are children under a certain age. And I think that's, to me, it's just an age thing.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, right, as far as I know right now, there was a debate. There was people testified at a city council meeting. But the bottom line is that right now there is no city ordinance against this, and so they had to approve it and let it go on. So now that for this year. And we'll see what happens between now.
And it's funny you say no existing city ordinance.
Right.
But
then we have on COS Today, we have spent a lot of time in the past talking about genders, about what am I trying to say? Transgender, dysphoria. We've talked a lot about that, and we've had experts come on and talk about this thing about what's happening with our young people. And one of the lessons that I picked out from all that we have discussed is that the target of these efforts has always been the young people.
Sure.
And I see drag queen shows at community oriented, family oriented festivals is the target's the young kids that are there. The target is to make it seem acceptable to the young kids.
Yeah.
Heck, you know, I'm there with mom and dad. We're all having a good time, and this is very funny. And mom and dad seem to approve it, so it must be okay.
Yeah.
And I think that's the target of this stuff. So anyway, I thought I'd put together a few thoughts on it, and
yeah, like I said, I think it's really, of course, nowadays what seems very logical and black and white is seen, I guess, is seen as abnormal. That we want to restrict these people from influencing our kids. And I mean, when you look at the fact that that we have this struggle with teachers in our public schools against the parents, why do I find it surprising that you have an event like this and the board and the city say, well, yeah, there's nothing wrong with that, so.
yeah.
It is a reflection of the times we live, but yeah, to me, it's a very simple age. I mean, what do they say? It's age 25 for the average male to reach his full brain development. Females may be a little bit sooner than that, but we're certainly not talking 5, 6, and 7-year-olds.
Right.
At this point,
Right.
they rely heavily on their parents' direction.
Sure.
So,
Sure.
Yep.
All right. Well, let's wrap it up tonight, Ken.
All right.
I want to always let everyone know, if you're trying to find us, go to our YouTube channel, and I think, Ken, you're going to be posting a link.
I'm going to be looking for that right now. Yeah.
But our YouTube channel is American Patriots for Convention of States. That's the easiest way to find us. If you can't do the link, then just do a search on YouTube for American Patriots for Convention of States. There you'll find our current broadcast and also any past broadcasts. So that's where you want to find us. If you want to make a comment about tonight's broadcast, drop us an email at raiseyourvoicecos@gmail.com. raiseyourvoicecos@gmail.com. So before we let Marengo Mike close us out here tonight, Ken, any comments or questions from viewers that we need to acknowledge?
No, I thought those last couple of segments might produce something, but right now I think people are still in shock, to be honest with you.
Still in shock, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, once again, I want to remind everyone that our broadcast next Monday, the 6th of July, will be a pre-recorded broadcast. It'll be a special that we're putting together this week for that broadcast and celebrating our 250th birthday as a nation. And we're going to be talking about, on that broadcast, we're going to be talking about what is special to each of us about America. So you'll be listening, you'll be hearing from various of our routine contributors. And I think we got some other videos planned for you. Marengo Mike's going to make an appearance. And so I think you'll enjoy it. We're going to try our best to put together a nice program for the 6th, and then give everybody here at COS Today a full weekend to celebrate our 250th birthday. So,
right.
All right. Let me pull up. I'm sorry. Did you have something, Ken?
No, just it all sounds good to me. You gotta.
Okay.
I think people will enjoy it. Yeah.
All right. All right. Well, here's Marengo Mike to close us out for the evening here.
Marengo Mike here with a reminder of the importance of this year as we continue to grow the grassroots army of volunteers and the mission of using the Constitution to fix the ills of our government. Use the QR code if you haven't signed the petition and consider using your talents to become